Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. It's Wednesday, November 27th. It is just one day until Thanksgiving. So get busy if you're the cooking person in your family, or get busy if you're the shopping person and have to pick something up. That would be me. Mostly have to pick up my mother, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, if you've got a financial question as you are out doing your pre-Thanksgiving errands, give us a holler. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and of course, let us know if you'd like to come on the air live so we can walk through whatever's on your mind. While you're on the website, don't forget we've got a lot of great resources. We've got the books, we've got videos, we've got the free weekly newsletter, and of course, you can subscribe to our service called Jill on Money Live, where for $35, just through the end of this year, you will have access to live quarterly webinars, 4 of them. And then you can also watch the back catalog of those webinars. They're really fun. So I encourage you to check that out. All right, so today we are going to do a little breaking down of the news. There I was, minding my own business, preparing my salmon fillets for dinner on Monday night, when all of a sudden I get a call from work and they say, hey, the president-elect has just posted on social media that there is going to be a big effort to actually enact tariffs on his first day in office. And those tariffs would include a 25% charge on all products coming into the U.S. from both Mexico and Canada. Then there was a separate post that said he would impose a 10% tariff on top of the 60% tariffs on China. And it all sort of got rolled up into one big, oh my gosh, this is actually happening sooner than we think. So we got it together, my producer and I, and we were able to talk about tariffs on the air yesterday on CBS Mornings. So I want to play that segment. The anchors who will bring us in are Nate Burleson, Gail King, and Tony DeCopel. And on the other side of it, I'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts around tariffs.
So what does this mean for consumers?
You know, it's interesting because a tariff is basically a fee that's placed on an imported good.
Please
right?
explain that, 'cause I think a lot of people are confused.
Right. So it's not that it's like, oh, we're fining this country.
Right.
It's the good comes in, you and I own a company.
Right.
There's a new fee on it.
Okay.
Now, we have to make a decision as a company. Are we going to pass that extra fee on to the consumer, or are we going to eat it? If we eat it, we make less money, profitability goes down, stocks go down.
That doesn't seem like the case.
That's not a good idea for many companies. Now, if we pass it on, what happens? Consumers, all of us, pay that extra amount on that good. So the question really is, how big are these tariffs going to be? Because this is the first salvo. It could be a negotiation. We don't know for sure. And which goods are really impacted are going to be really, I think, subsequently figured out, because some of them are going to be auto parts, some of it's going to be oil from Canada, some of it's going to be food from Mexico. I think the biggest concern that I talked to among a lot of economists is this could also snarl up the supply chain in North America, because it's Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., and a lot of those supply chains were established during COVID to minimize risks.
So when you add it all up and you think about the total effect on the economy, what might it be? And could we see more manufacturing here in the U.S. to avoid the tariffs?
Well, the problem with the manufacturing, let me deal with the second part of that question, is that it takes a while to get that really booted up, right? And so manufacturing, it's not like, boom, it turns on in 5 minutes. The impact on the economy is usually a 6 to 9 month lag. And it's not going to be like, oh, we're going off a cliff and going into a recession, because the economy is growing right now. We're growing at about, let's call it 2.5% for this year. Maybe it's going to drop down to, say, 2 or 2.25% next year because of these tariffs, and also because a lot of economists believe the immigration policies that are being contemplated could also be a real drag on the economy. We don't know the actual amount until we have the numbers.
Right. So how do you expect the countries to respond to impending tariffs?
Well, the problem with each of these countries is that we, the United States, are in a power position. So they're going to retaliate. But if you're, say, China and your economy is already weak, you're not punching back as hard. I think Mexico and Canada are going to have to retaliate. And that's the fear, that this becomes a bigger, larger issue. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so I think the main point is we don't know exactly what's going to happen just yet. But what we do know is that tariffs can lead to higher prices. And unlike the tariffs that we saw in the first Trump administration, those tariffs did increase prices, but they increased prices from very low levels. The inflation rate in 2017 and 18 and 19, it was below 2%. And we may not be experiencing that surge of inflation, but prices are already high due to that inflationary spike during the post-COVID reopening. So the case for, oh, this is no big deal, just look back to the first time it happened, I don't think it plays out the exact same way. Consumers are already highly sensitized to price increases. So it wouldn't be just, oh, we can eat it, no biggie. The other part of it is that consumers also understand they have choices. I mean, you might see higher prices for something, and you might say, okay, you know what, I'll find an alternative, or I'll skip that item altogether, or maybe I'll just pay for the increased price on one thing, but maybe not on something else. But I guess at the end of the day, it would be really hard for me to make the case that you should do anything with this information. No, you shouldn't load up on lumber if you've got a big housing project. I don't know what's going to happen next, and neither do you. And frankly, it's sort of a fool's errand to try to shift around the things in your buying behavior today when we don't understand what the next months are going to lead to. And similarly, I'm not the kind of person who thinks that you should be changing around your portfolio because of this. Yes, it is possible that we see a somewhat lower growth rate next year. But let's say that I'm wrong. Let's say we go into a tailspin recession. Are we really going to try to figure out what to do in the next few months when you are actually investing for years and decades in the future? No, we're not going to do that. So if you do have a question about something going on in your life that has changed, not just about tariffs, about your life, get in touch with us. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, write us that note, and check the box if you would like to join us on the air live. Now, I want to tell you, we are going to drop an episode tomorrow, but it's not going to be financial. It's going to be a little of that gratitude practice that Mark and I love to do every Thanksgiving. So feel free to tune in tomorrow or not, but do have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and be happy with your family and your friends and gather those you love around you and reach out to people who might not have as many of those people around that they wish they had had. In other words, do something nice for someone else today. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.